Hey guys, my name is Haley and we are here to film my mail book recommendations. This is not going to be quite as extensive, I don't think, as my sapphic one, so if you have not seen that, please go check that out as well. It will have gone up before this one. This is yet again another one of my book recommendations for Pride. I've been planning these for years and I never get around to them in the month, but we're finally doing them this year, and I would really appreciate it if you could go interact with the video in some way, shape, or form, whether that's like, subscribe, comment, leave me some emojis in the comments in some way just to let me know you were here. I would really appreciate it. It helps grow the channel. And without further ado, we're going to jump into the book recs. There may be a few repeats from my underrated book recs, so if you haven't seen that either, that will be linked down below. Yeah, I think I have 16, 17, 18 recommendations for you, so stick around, grab a snack, maybe this might be a longer video, and we will jump right into the recommendations. First up, we have Docile. This, right off the bat, not a romance. Some of these will be romances, some of them will not. I will make it very obvious if they are not. And this is a science fiction parable about love and sex and wealth disparity and people who are in debt, as well as abuse and power. So please check triggers on this book. This is the story of our main character who becomes a servant to a member of the wealthy class. And it is their dynamic that is not necessarily a healthy one in this world where you pay off debt by being indebted to a rich person. A lot of that involves sex slavery. So if that is not for you, feel free to skip this one. I really enjoyed all of the commentary that happened in this book, and I've not heard many people read it in recent years. I know it was more popular back on Booktube probably a decade ago when I first started my channel, but I feel I haven't mentioned it in a while, so we're mentioning it now. That's going straight on the book recommendations, if you can stomach the content. Then we have one that is absolutely a romance, and that is For the Fans. This is one of my favorite standalone romances, maybe ever. And this is a stepbrother romance where they decide to make what is essentially an OnlyFans. I don't think it's called that in the book because there was copyright issues when this came out, but it is for the two of them to help pay for college. And the whole idea is that they only kiss, they only have interactions for the fans, so they only kiss when they are on camera. Until suddenly they don't. This is one of my favorite romances. It is a chunky romance, so if you really want to do a deep dive on two main characters with a lot of tension, highly recommend. Then I have Vanilla. This is told in verse, and our main character is Ace on this Ace spectrum, and it is him trying to understand his attraction, or rather lack thereof, with his best friend who is in love with him. So this is a very heavy topic for some people. I do think it has very good Ace representation. And this is one of the few Ace representation books I ever see recommended, other than Alice Oseman's Loveless, which is the one everybody recommends because it's the one all of us have read. And I never hear this one talked about, so I wanted to put it in this video. And we have Into This River I Drown. This has romantic elements, but it is more supernatural. Speaking of supernatural, I am convinced, I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, that this is Destiel fanfiction, as in Dean and Castiel from the show Supernatural. This does deal a lot with grief, and I'm convinced that the angel character in this is Castiel, which is why I think it's Destiel fanfic. Just saying. I really, really enjoyed this back when I read it. Was it because I'm a hardcore Destiel fangirl from my teenage years? Maybe. That might have been a huge part of the reason. Not gonna lie. We have a queer paranormal detective series, and that is P.S. I Spook You. I believe there are 4 of these out. I don't know if it's a finished series or not. I know I've read 4 of them. And this is also a second chance romance between our detective and another detective that he has to work with to solve some of these crimes, who is his ex. So it is a second chance romance. And then we have For Real. This is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, BDSM romance, and this is by Alexis Hall. It is a BDSM romance with 2 men, but one of the men is much younger, so it is also age gap, and the younger of the 2 men is the dom. This is also one of the most heart-wrenching, angsty BDSM romances I've ever read. I cried a lot reading this book, and I recommend it to every person ever who mentions anything to do with BDSM. I don't care if you read queer fiction or not. This is my favorite of them. Then we have Evergreen by David Greenlee. This is a teenage boy who's trapped in his house, and we find out it's because he is the one and only first male dryad. This is his story of falling in love with the human boy and wanting to get out of the house for the first time. This was a very cute YA. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody else read it. I definitely read it for Pride either last year or the year before. They kind of blur together in my brain. But I do want to recommend it. It was not my personal favorite, but especially if you are a YA reader or know somebody who is actually in the YA category, please recommend this one to them because it's a very, very cute romance. Then we have The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is the Prince of Christmas falling in love with the Prince of Halloween. It is just as cheesy as it sounds, but it's also so heartwarming and so cute, as well as the second book in the series, which is Go Luck Yourself. This is the ambassador for Christmas visiting St. Patrick's Day and falling in love with the Prince of St. Patrick's Day. I love this series by Sarah Raj. It made me want to read a lot of her older books. I know she wrote the Ice and Fire or whatever that series was called that came out like 10 years ago, and I never got around to them. When I realized that was the same author as the series, I was shook. And for a more contemporary romance, I recommend The Music of What Happens. This is two boys in Arizona who start a food truck business from this like broken down food truck they got. Neither of them have any experience, but they need to raise money during the summer, and this is how they choose to do it. And the atmosphere of this, like the sweltering summer heat, has stuck with me since I read it. I think about this book every time I see a food truck now. Because the author also got across just how hot and sweltering and awful a lot of the conditions inside like food trucks can be, especially for like people who don't know what they're doing. And I've never really seen a person recommend it, so here it is on the book recommendation videos for male romances. Then we have The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. If you remember, she was also on my Sapphic book guide video because I love one of her Saphics, and this is one of her male romance ones that I really enjoyed. And this is a reality show. Producer falls in love with the male lead of the show he's producing. It's basically like a Bachelor type situation, and that is not supposed to happen. The male lead is supposed to be dating all of these women in like a Bachelor situation, and he falls in love with the producer instead. This also has really good mental health rep in it, and I just love Alison Cochrane's romance. She does such a good job with them. Then we have The First to Die at the End. I am aware that this is the second book in the series. I liked the first book. I hated the third book. So personally, I think you can read them out of order. This is telling the literal first person to have ever gotten the call for Deathcast. I feel like most of you, if you've been here for a minute or read queer YA, you definitely heard about They Both Die at the End, which is the first book in the series. And this is the first person who has ever gotten the call. And it is a boy who has recently moved to New York City to like pursue his dreams. And at midnight on the first time they ever use Deathcast, which is a phone call you get and you hear you're going to die today, and that is it. That is all the information that you get, and they've never really been wrong. But this is the story and the romance of his last day on Earth, but it also involves the son of the creator of Deathcast and the two of them forming a relationship on our main character's last day. This one made me sob hysterically. I know I cried at the first one. This one was so much better and so much worse at the same time. The ending of this is one of the craziest YA endings I've possibly ever read. And then we have Don't Let the Forest In. This is a toxic friendship, like being in love with his best friend at a boarding school, and it has very like supernatural elements to it. One of which being possibly one of our main characters can create monsters. And that's all I'm going to say. This is the only CG Drews that I have personally read, but I'm very much looking forward to reading the rest of their books because they come out with them, I believe, yearly at this point. And I do believe all of them are queer in some way. And then I'm going to recommend Heated Rivalry. I don't think there's anybody on a planet right now who is watching a queer recommendation video who does not know what Heated Rivalry is, especially if you are in the book realm. Or even in the TV realm if you saw the show and read the book afterwards. I do have a video of me reading and watching the show. I will leave that link down below. It went up a few weeks before this one for Pride Month. And my personal favorite is obviously Heated Rivalry, but I also really, really loved Game Changer. So I'm going to throw that one in here as well. Because I feel like Scott and Kip deserve their flowers. Then we have a series I feel like everyone and their mother has heard of, and that is Heartstopper. This was huge a few years ago, especially when the TV show was coming out, which I still have not seen, and I definitely need to get on that one. But this is our main characters at like a school. It is a queer YA graphic novel series that deals with a lot of topics, a lot of mental health things especially. And it is one of the cutest YA series I've ever read, and I do believe the last book of Heartstopper is coming out this month, if I'm not mistaken. and I need to read that. I would love to do a reread of the series as well to read it because it's been a few years since the last one that I read. And then we have a few repeats from a previous video, but I'm still going to throw them in here in case you have not seen that one. The first of those being Criminal Intentions. This is a propaganda type storyline, but it deals a lot with asexuality because one of our main characters is demisexual, and it is a huge part of the relationship in this series. This is also a series that is 30 some books long. If you want a really long series to just sink your teeth into with our main characters, if you want a really good villain, if you want a book series about detectives and police forces that deals with all of the issues in those spaces. Our two main characters are two queer men who work on the police force, so it also deals a lot with the homophobia involved in all of those spaces. I love this series. It's my favorite book series of all time, and I don't ever hear anybody talk about it. And then we have Dead Serious. This is a paranormal type detective romance. Our main character is a mortician. He goes out with his coworkers one day, very begrudgingly, to celebrate a birthday. He chokes on an ice cube, almost dies, and when the EMTs revive him, he goes home and goes, that was a weird time, and realizes he can see ghosts when he gets home. But the first ghost that he sees is a drag queen from a local drag bar, and she wants our main character to help solve her murder. And this also is a series that is ongoing of the two of them solving crimes. And then last is possibly my favorite book of all time. I have yet to make that decision, but very likely, and that is Dayspring. This is a story told of Jesus if he was in love with John the Beloved, and it is told in verse, literally written as if it were the Bible, and even so much as the red letters being when Jesus speaks, it's the red letters, and when John speaks, it is a regular verse type format like it would be in an actual Bible. This is also a non-linear story, so it is very confusing, but if for those of the people that I feel like this book is for, it is very much for them. It was very much for me. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but one of my favorite books to recommend of any kind. I do have a video of me reading it back, I think, 2 years ago, and I will leave that link down below. It's called Reading the Gay Jesus Book. But yes, those are all of my mail romance recommendations. If you have any more for me, please leave them in the comments down below. I'm always looking for more. And if you don't know what to say, please leave me just the pride flag in the comments down below for the emojis. But thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you guys next time.